Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Sports Lovers. What is up? It is, of course, playoff time here at the channel. It is NBA playoff time in the world. And in today's video, we are going to be predicting the NBA play-in and the NBA playoffs. Now, I will have you note that I have not watched every single game of NBA basketball this season. I'm not like the greatest expert when it comes to predicting these NBA playoffs. But what I am going to do is just kind of go through game by game, series by series, who I think is going to win and ultimately take home the Larry O'Brien Trophy in June. But first, if you are new to the channel, you already know what to do. Leave a like, subscribe, turn that bell on, as we do our best to post on this channel every single day. We are trying to make it back to the college football season. Of course, it is the off season right now, so things are looking a little bit slow. But if you are into sports, if you're into playoff predictions, if you're into baseball, if you're into anything, hit that sub button, leave a comment down below so you don't miss out on any of the latest videos as we ramp up for college football season. Of course, tomorrow we will have a discussion with a specific Alabama insider, as he'll talk about, of course, the A-Day game, kind of give his thoughts on Keelan Russell's the quarterback situation over at Alabama. Also talk about Ryan Williams as well, where he thinks Ty Simpson's going to go, all of that stuff. So we will have an Alabama insider type of interview tomorrow on the channel. So hit that sub button, leave a comment down below so you don't miss out on any of the latest videos. And without further ado, let us go ahead and hop into these NBA playoff predictions. All right, so let us start out in the Eastern Conference. Of course, that is the first game on the slate today. The Charlotte Hornets hosting the Miami Heat. Personally, I'm going to go with the Charlotte Hornets, man. The Charlotte Hornets are a really good team. They have guys like LaMelo Ball, Con Knipple. They can shoot the three ball really well. And Miami's defense, I don't think, is going to be able to hold them. So ultimately, in a one-game type of deal, I am taking the Charlotte Hornets to get the job done. Also, it is at home, a home playoff game for Charlotte. We saw the Carolina Panthers home playoff game. I just know the city of Charlotte's going to be buzzing for this game. I'm actually rooting for the Hornets to make it to the first round of the NBA playoffs, and I think they do and get the job done against Miami in the Eastern Conference play-in game. Then we have the second Eastern Conference play-in game. I believe the 8 or 9v10 game loser gets eliminated, winner moves on into the 8-seeded game, where we have the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Orlando Magic. And if the Orlando Magic play anything like they did on Sunday, again, I know it was against Boston's 2s and 3s, they will win this game. I fully believe that. Joel Embiid has not come back enough for me to say, hey, the Philadelphia 76ers are a playoff team, as much as I want to say it with Janai Broom and company. But I don't think that they are, and I think the Orlando Magic actually are going to move on to, of course, the 9-10 matchup, which sets up a 9-10 matchup which sets up Orlando versus Miami in that game. Honestly, I'm going to go with the Orlando Magic here. I think the Orlando Magic have what it takes to get out of the play-in. I know they're one of the lower level seeds, but I do think that they are going to get the job done and move on, of course, into that first round of the playoffs. Now, moving on to the western side of the play-in, where the first game is the Golden State Warriors and the, of course, Los Angeles Clippers. That is tomorrow. I have Golden State getting the job done in the 10v9 game. I know Curry's going to be on a minutes restriction, but I do like them a lot better than I like the Clippers. And the Clippers lost James Harden, so they do not have their backcourt duo anymore with Kawhi and Harden. And I think ultimately that's going to pay. Of course, you're going to see some repercussions of that in this matchup. Give me Golden State to get the job done, and they will move on to the next game in the play-in tournament. Moving on, of course, we have Phoenix versus Portland in the second game, or the first game, that is tonight, rather. I'm going to go with Phoenix to get the job done. I just think they have too many good guys like DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker. Those guys, I think, are going to do well enough to get Phoenix, the win, and Portland is going to be sent out of the West bracket, where we have Portland versus Golden State in the last one, and I'm taking the Golden State Warriors to get the job done and move on to the first round of the playoffs. So there you have it. Recap the play-in in the West. We got Golden State, and of course we got the Phoenix Suns moving on. And then in the East, we got the Charlotte Hornets and the Orlando Magic moving on to the first round of the playoffs. And without further ado, let us predict the NBA playoffs. All right, so now we are going to start over in the Western Conference side of the bracket. We'll go West versus East. These are the hypothetical first round matchups if my predictions were, of course, expected to come to fruition here in the next couple of days when it comes to the play-in. First off, we got OKC hosting Golden State in the 1v8 matchup. Obviously, I'm going to take the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are a really good, solid team. I do like them a lot in these playoffs, but I do think there's going to be one team that actually beats them. However, it is not going to be the Golden State Warriors, and the Oklahoma City Thunder will get the job done and move on to the second round of the playoffs. Moving on, we got the 4v5 game, I believe. That is the Lakers versus the Houston Rockets. Give me the Rockets in this one. Yes, I do not think the Lakers are going to make the second round of the NBA playoffs. I really don't. I think that Houston has far more depth between Jabari Smith, Kevin Durant. Of course, I believe there are some other dudes on there that could definitely shoot the three ball for Houston. And I think they have too much star power for them not to make it to the second round of the playoffs, even if it is against LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves, those guys. I do think Houston makes it on the second round, and they ultimately get the job done. Moving on, of course, we got Denver versus Minnesota. I'm going to go with Minnesota to get the upset win over the Nuggets. Yes, I know the Nuggets have one of the world's best players in Nikola Jokic. I know that they have some guys that can shoot the three ball. However, they are without a head coach now and Mike Malone. So he has gone to UNC. We haven't really hit on that on the channel, but he is at North Carolina. I actually like the hire by UNC. And, of course, I think Minnesota, Anthony Edwards get the job done and move on to the second round. I actually think they get it done in 6 games, not 7. Then, final Western Conference matchup, that is the Spurs and the Phoenix Suns. Give me San Antonio to get the job done. Wemby, you got those guys on the Spurs that can shoot the three ball. Stephen Castle, of course, being another really young, talented player. I think that the San Antonio Spurs get the job done and move on to the next round of the NBA playoffs in the West, which brings us to our second round matchups, the conference semifinal matchups, where we have Oklahoma City versus the Houston Rockets, and this is where I think the Oklahoma City's defending championship run comes to an end. I think the Houston Rockets move on to the Western Conference Finals. We've seen how much the refs like to help the Houston Rockets. We saw it against the Pelicans, I believe, a few weeks ago. We've seen it against other teams like the Memphis Grizzlies, stuff like that. With that being said, I think that Kevin Durant is just too much for this young OKC team. I know they have talent all across the board. They have Jared McCain now. They have, of course, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They have, of course, Chet Holmgren as well. With that said, I just think the Rockets are going to be too much. I think this is an inexperienced group. I really do. Yes, they made it and won the finals last year. But when it comes to playing tough competition, typically they like to struggle. And I'm going to go with the Houston Rockets to get the job done and move on to the Western Conference Finals in the NBA playoffs. Bringing us to the final conference semifinal series where we have San Antonio versus Minnesota. And I'm going to be real. San Antonio wipes the floor with Minnesota in this one. I think they sweep Minnesota in this hypothetical playoff matchup, moving them on to the Western Conference Finals where we have Houston versus the San Antonio Spurs. And I have San Antonio making it to the NBA Finals. Yes, you heard that correctly. I think Victor Wembanyama, Stephon Castle, I think they get the job done and move on to the NBA Finals because of how good those guys are. Yes, I know Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith. I know a couple of those guys on the Rockets that are really good three-point shooters. However, Victor Wembanyama is here to play defense, and defense wins championships, and he single-handedly is going to give the Spurs a 7-game thriller series against the Houston Rockets, and the Spurs will make it out of the Western Conference and move on to the NBA Finals. All right, moving on to the Eastern Conference side of things. We are going to do the same thing that we just did in the Western side, and ultimately I will be telling you my Eastern Conference champions. So, starting us off in the first round, we have Charlotte versus Detroit. I'm going to go with Detroit to get a 4-0 sweep of Charlotte in the first round. Yes, I know. I said that they have the likes of Concacaf and, of course, LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, those guys. But I don't think they are good enough to, of course, keep up with the Detroit offense that they have. like Cade Cunningham, like Amin Thompson. Those type of guys are better than them, and I ultimately think that the Detroit Pistons are going to get a 4-0 sweep of the Charlotte Hornets. Moving on, we got Cleveland versus Toronto, and I think this is a series that actually goes to 7 games. Brandon Ingram has been balling out for the Toronto Raptors. Of course, Donovan Mitchell for the Cavs. You got James Harden now. But I do think Toronto's defense is a little bit better, and ultimately I think that is what's going to make it a 7-game series. However, give me Cleveland as they have the more playoff experience, and ultimately they are going to get the job done in the Eastern Conference. Moving on to the next one, this is going to be a thriller of a series. If anything, it was like the overtime game that we had a few weeks ago between the two. Then it is going to be pure cinema, and that is the Knicks versus the Hawks. I don't think Jalen Johnson's going to roll in New York because Jalen Johnson hadn't done anything to New York yet, but he will. The Atlanta Hawks are going to upset the New York Knicks in the first round of the playoffs and make it to the conference semifinals. Give me the Hawks in this one, as they have some experience with New York, and they will get the job done behind Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, and company. Moving on to the final, of course, Eastern Conference first round game. That is Boston versus Orlando. Give me Boston to sweep Orlando. I know the Magic won a couple of days ago. However, like I said, Boston was not playing their starters at all. I think Boston actually gets the job done in 4 games in this series as well, bringing us to the Eastern Conference second round matchups between Detroit and Cleveland. I think that's going to go 6 or 7 games. I really do. But I have the Detroit Pistons taking the job done. And then Boston versus Atlanta. Give me Boston in this one. As much as I want Atlanta to win and make it to the Eastern Conference Finals again, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't. Jalen Johnson, very inexperienced point guard when it comes to playoff, of course, games. Then we have Dyson Daniels. We just have such a young core. I think it's going to take a little time to make another run. However, I do expect Boston to get the job done and move on to the Eastern Conference Finals, where we have Detroit taking on Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. Give me Detroit to move on to the of course, NBA Finals, where they will face the San Antonio Spurs, and I've got the Spurs as my finals champion. But you guys, let me know your thoughts on this video in the comments down below. Kind of a wonky video today. Let me know where you stand in the NBA playoffs. Hit that sub button, leave a comment down below as we're on the road to college football season once again. Hit that sub button, leave a comment. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know where you stand when it comes to, of course, NBA playoffs. I will see you in the next one. Peace.